All right, good morning, everybody. This is Justin Foster, the co-CMO at Loop One here in Austin, Texas. This is another in our series of webinars that we've put together that are designed to provide what we refer to as engineered insights into some of the complex or daily issues that y'all are dealing with in your various roles. This particular webinar is on the ABCs of network compliance. And our subject matter expert today is part of the Loop One family, Mr. Eric Hodeen. And Eric has designed, installed, and implemented and managed multiple LANs and WANs for many Department of Defense commands and organizations across the US and Europe. He's been practicing the FCAPS management model for over 20 years and is a avid learner and researcher of new and existing technologies. He's also very active on THWAC if you want to interact with him there. So we're very pleased to have you on, Eric, as a subject matter expert, and I will turn it over to you to fire away. Oh, one more housekeeping thing. If you've not used GoToWebinar before, you likely logged in via control panel. If you have questions for Eric during the presentation, please do post them. We try to get to as many questions as possible, and they're very helpful in stirring additional dialogue. And there's a feature in the GoToWebinar control panel called questions where you can post them. If you have any issues or anything, you can use the chat, and I will reply back to that as well. And we also are live tweeting the more salient points of Eric's presentation via @Loop1 on Twitter. All right, there you go, Eric. I'll turn it over to you.
Well, thank you very much, Justin. I appreciate it. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone. Today's discussion is ABCs of network compliance using SolarWinds NCM.
And Eric, can you make sure you share your screen, please?
Are you not seeing my screen yet?
Oh, there we are. Yep, you got it. I was just looking in the wrong area. All right, I'm going to put myself on mute and let you do your thing.
Okay. All right. Okay. Yeah, I've been working with compliance since about 2007 when the DISA STIG started coming out when I was supporting a DoD command. And I needed an easy way to be able to automate this process because when my auditors would come in, I would have to sit down with them, every single device, and run through the checklist. And that took about 3 weeks to accomplish. So I looked at SolarWinds, and they had a compliance feature there. So I started working with the code a little bit, got all programmed up, and I was able to take that 3 weeks of time with the auditors down to about 3 days. So it's really helped out over the past few years. If you want to send me an email, you can send me an email here. Here's my THWAC profile. Been a member of THWAC since 2010. So why do I need to be compliant? Well, for a lot of us, it's part of our job. With the new federal, state regulations and regulatory agencies, we are required to be compliant, whether it's through the DoD or other federal agencies, through healthcare industry using HIPAA, or if your industry uses credit cards, the payment card industry, PCI. Because we've all experienced and we've all seen the hacks over the years of credit card information being stolen. So part of being compliant is to protect your data and to also protect the company. One more thing. So some of the benefits of being compliant, your fault identification management is solidified. Configuration management, everything gets standardized. You will find that after you become compliant, your standard configurations are now set to a baseline that's more manageable. Accountability, performance increases because everything is running the same code. Everything is standardized, and troubleshooting is a lot easier. And then you're also providing a security baseline after becoming compliant. Okay. How much will this cost? Well, I get that question quite a bit. How much will being compliant or doing the compliant activity cost? Well, first of all, you have the software products, and those, wide range of costs there. But the biggest cost will be the labor. How much man hours will it take to do this? You can do it the hard way and sit there and go through every single device with the checklist one at a time, and eventually you'll pull your hair out because you feel like you're never getting anywhere. Or you just say, well, what do I do? I don't know where to start. I don't really understand what I'm supposed to be doing. Okay. And then there's the easy way. Easy way is through automation using the compliance feature in NCM. Okay. And then once you are compliant to a level, then operations and maintenance of your new configurations becomes a lot easier, and you spend a lot less time trying to be compliant because you've already reached that level. And right before an audit, you're not running around or spending weekends at the office working on compliance because you have maintained it over the year. Okay. Where do I start? Well, first of all, you download a free 30-day trial of SolarWinds NCM. And with NCM, there are native templates, whether it's STIG or PCI or NIST or FSMA. It comes along with it. And then you can also import from FLAC. You can simply just go out to one of my pages, everything DISA STIGs, or everything PCI, and you can bring down the compliance features that you need. Right. And so today what we're going to do is we're going to do a demo against the DISA STIGs, against NET 812 and NET 813, which is configuration for NTP on a layer 2 switch. Okay. Prerequisites. You need to have SolarWinds NCM installed. Okay. As you can see down below, I have my NCM installed. This comes directly from the license manager. Okay. Second, you need to have the device added into SolarWinds. Here I'm just using simple SNMP v2, just a simple string, just to add the device in there into SolarWinds, so it's now being managed. Second, for the sticks to work, you need to add in a couple custom properties. As you can see down below, C1 device type, layer 2 switch, infrastructure router, infrastructure layer 3 switch, perimeter router, firewall, so on and so forth. The second one is OS. Now, I know many of us have multi-vendor environments, whether it's Cisco or Brocade, Juniper, or Palo Alto, whatever. You need to identify the OS, because let's take Cisco for instance. A Cisco iOS is much different than a Cisco Nexus. So you want to be able to call out the iOS command set, not necessarily the Nexus command set. And then C3 down below, this is not required for our purposes today, but it is, I like to be able to identify what devices they function. Is it a switch? Is it a router? Is it a firewall, load balancer, so on and so forth. Okay, and the dashboard. Okay, you'll need to be able to set up a dashboard so you are able to track your various reports and right. So demo network time protocol. Okay, NET 812 specifies that NTP specify 2 NTP server addresses on the device to be used to request time. All right, and 813 says you basically have to authenticate it. It prefers PKI or using SHA-1, but as we know, many Cisco devices, switches, they come with MD5, and so we'll use that. Okay. All right, so this is where we're starting. These are reports, as you can see here. NTP Layer 2 report says that there are 2 Cat 3s and 1 Cat 1. Okay. Net 812 is a Cat 2, and a Net 813 is a Cat 3. Okay. There we go. I'm sorry, yep, Cat 8112 is Cat 3, and 813 is a Cat 2. All right, so we have a simple Layer 2 switch called Black Network. There's the IP address, and there are the findings. Okay, if you see a dot, whether it's a blue, yellow, or red icon there, that means that you have not satisfied the compliance check or the compliance rule. Okay, so what we need to do is we either need to correct our device configuration or modify the rule to show or check for the appropriate information. Okay. There we go. We'll work on these two today. Okay. Now it's time to remediate our device. Okay. So this is a basic NTP configuration for a Cisco Layer 2 device running iOS software. Okay. 2 NTP servers, key 1 and key 2. You can use whatever key number you want. It doesn't really matter. I like to keep it simple. Key 1 and key 2 would be for the master to go out and get authenticated key from an external source. Key 3, key 4 would be for internal. Choose what you wish. Just trying to keep the keys real simple. Okay, next. Here's the rule consists of 3 parts. Okay, this is the first part of the rule, identifying this rule. Okay, we see the rule name up above, Net 812 NTP, the short description, and what alert level it should be, Cat 2, Cat 3, Cat 2, or Cat 1. Okay. And here's the rule. Here's the meat of the topic right here. Right. We are looking for these 2 command lines on our device. Okay. NTP server, device 2 with key 2. Okay. The string type, you can use either find the string, which is basically looking for the CLI of your device, or you can use regular expressions. I've worked with regular expressions before in the past, and sometimes if the code's not necessarily acting correctly or not programmed right, you may get yourself in a stuck caching state. In that case, you have to go into the database and clear a couple things and reboot your server. So I try to stick with CLI because it's easier to follow and it's less problematic. All right, so, and then the third part, the remediation part. This is where I like to use this space here to identify information for those coming in behind me, or for auditors, or, you know, say this device, or look for this device for this certain code, so on and so forth. Down below, you'll see that you can do auto remediation. I generally do not do auto remediation because sometimes if it goes out to the wrong devices, you may lock yourself out or bring down the network. But for simple stuff like no IP, no service path, you could push that out, and that's not necessarily going to be an invasive configuration change. All right, so let's go ahead and check our work. All right, so we start with Black Network. Okay, Once we've made the device change, we've verified a rule or changed our rule, we have to download the configuration. Okay? Downloading the new configuration will put it into SolarWinds for us to go ahead and update our rule. Okay? So you have to download the configuration, then you update your rule or your report, and we're going to go ahead and update them all. Only takes a minute or two, depending on how many rules you have. I have a network with about 700 devices on it, and this network spans across the globe, and I can update all the policies, all the rules, and audit my entire network in about 10 minutes. And it does this automatically every night. So when you come in the morning, you can find out what Joe Snuffy out in California has been doing over the night. If he's installed a new device and it's not necessarily compliant, and it'll show up in the morning. Okay, and then we can see we have actually met the requirements. Right, we have our two servers, and they're using individual keys, and those keys are now authenticated with MD5. So we've met 812 and 813. Okay. Okay, so here's a couple compliance resource examples for you. There's always Slack. I would recommend, if you haven't got an account on Slack yet, I would recommend getting an account. It's simple, easy, free, and the online community is known for one of the best of helping its members. I'm on there quite often. Okay, here's Slack. Slack.com or slack.solarwinds.com, either one works. Sign up is easy. Okay. And you can, and this is where you can also get your additional reports that you're looking for, whether it's through the Slack pages themselves, or you can download them right through your SolarWinds Orion console. Okay? Simply go to My Dashboards, Compliance, Manage Rules and Policies, share it on Slack, and you'll find a host of different templates out there. Okay? Downloading the template by itself and running it may not necessarily work 100% of the time. You have to keep in mind that there's some customization that needs to be done because everyone's environment is different. We all use different IPs for doing different services, SNMP, NTP, management, printers, so on and so forth. So, there will be some configuration and some customization that you'll need to do. Okay. And here's a couple websites here for the standards and guidelines, whether it's DISA STIG, HIPAA, PCI, NIST, NERC, if anybody's in the electrical industry. And then there's, and if you need some additional resources, there's professional services offered by Loop One, services support, and also a class. I'm actually teaching a class next week, an NCM compliance class next week, where we will go through and complete layer 2 switch, hit every single finding. It's 58 findings, and we'll actually go ahead and make a layer 2 switch compliant. So looking forward to doing that, and there's also another one in September. So that was I ran through it kind of quick. I do apologize. Let's see if there's any questions. Please feel free to chime in.
So, Eric, what kind of, as we wait for questions, if any come in, and we'll read them out loud so that they're captured in the recording, but what are some commonly asked questions that you get, especially when you're doing the training classes?
Commonly asked questions is, how long is this going to take me to do? I typically tell folks, if you're just starting out, it's probably going to take a few weeks. But I would recommend that they take a single technology at a time and start with NTP. That's usually the easiest one to start with, just so you learn the between your device CLI and the Orion platform. Start there, get that down, and then the next day or the next week, pick another technology. Maybe there's different services, such as no service pad or service keep alives, or username and password. Picks up and easy. I do not recommend just sitting down and drilling through it for 4 or 5 days on end, because you probably burn yourself out, and that's not necessarily the best course. But if you do a little bit every day, you will find out that you'll be done in a few weeks.
Any other FAQs?
Another question that.
Yeah, go ahead. Mm-hmm.
Another question is, how do I upgrade? Because the different compliance standards, they do put out updates every now and again. And the best way to do that is to take DISA STIGs, for example. Right? They come out about quarterly, give or take the guideline. Once you've downloaded your STIGs and you've got everything set the way you want for that one, if there's an update, just go back through the revision history of that particular update. And the updates usually only contain 2 or 3 changes, and most of the time it's descriptions or check content or something like that. Not necessarily, there's hardly ever new rules. There's just modification to the actual finding itself. And you'll find that there's really not much of an update to do, but you do need to make sure that they are kept up to date.
A question has come in. It says, can we do multiple audit templates like PCI and HIPAA? And is there any conflict in that or any issues if we have multiple compliance standards?
No, there's none at all. Okay. For example, let's go ahead and here and let's go over to, okay. This is my SolarWinds lab here. And I've got, as you can see, I've got several devices. Let's go to my dashboards, compliance. Okay. And I've got a list of Cisco rules, reports, and Juniper, and wireless bridging. Okay. Whether it's HIPAA or PCI or NIST or DISA STIGs, you can run them all. It doesn't matter. The system will process them the same. It'll look at it'll take the latest download config against the rule and make a decision from there. Now keep in mind, the more rules and reports that you have, the longer it will take every night for it to validate the list. Like I said, with my 700 devices, it takes me about 10 minutes, which really at 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm sleeping. That's fine with me. It could take me 20 minutes. Now, if I'm doing actual updates to devices for a particular technology or section, like OOB, the out-of-band management, that I'll just update that during the day to do my check to see if my rules are working or not.
Okay. So there's a thank you more than a question, which, hey, we take those too. It says, not necessarily a question, but more of a thank you for suggestion to use CPs to note the iOS as a way to easily identify the node by the syntax we plan to use. That's always been one of my hiccups, and can't believe I didn't think to do that, so thanks.
Yes, I use a lot of custom properties in my environments. I usually use about 10 to 12. I know some folks do a lot more, but I like to call out the C's for compliance, C1, 2, 3, and then L's for location, because I deal with multiple locations, and then so on and so forth. And that's also very helpful to use custom properties when defining your nodes. So you're able to pull out custom SQL scripts or SolarWinds SQL scripts to identify a certain dashboard. So let's go ahead in here and edit properties. efficiency. And this is what I've done so far with my lab for this purposes today. Generally speaking, there would be a lot more. Okay, and there we go there. Let's go ahead and take a look over here. Shall we run through another demo? We can try this live action.
Yeah, absolutely. Go for it.
Okay. So when I'm generating these scripts and going through the compliance and reading through everything, I like to use Notepad, and this is how I break everything up. NTP and logging, same as it is in my reports. VLANs. General, how I like to configure all my different VLANs for things that we need running on a layer 2 switch. The different services, I call them out. So when the auditor does come by and says, hey, what about this? What about that? I can just go right to that net ID and show him or her what I've used. So what we can do here is, let's go ahead and take services. Well, first of all, let's take a look at where we're at with services so far. Site audit. Okay. Services, I'm looking at two Cat 3s and 1 Cat 2. Okay. Let's go ahead and take a little bit deeper dive into that. Okay. Some things have already been remediated. Generally speaking, because Cisco has deprecated those commands, so they do not show up, or they do show up given the ILS. All right, so we're looking at 724, 740, and 820. All right, let's go back and look. 24, 740, and 820. Okay, let's go ahead and copy. And we will restart. And I'll shocker that I use my username as SolarWinds, right? Okay. And let's go ahead and drop that configuration in there. See, there it goes. Some of you may have noticed I use IP access list standard, not applicable. Sometimes you run across a STIG that is calling for a certain finding to be remediated. Certain devices may not even provide that functionality. Like between Juniper and Cisco, sometimes the Juniper just already takes care of those. So I use not applicable as not applicable. I have the rule search for that. All right, so I've just dropped in my configuration. I've done the right mem already. Let's go ahead and download my configuration. Okay, there. Network, download, running. And for those of you that want to do, download other type of show commands like show NTP status or show VLANs or show SNMP user, we can go in my course. We'll actually go through and set several of those up, and then you can run your DISA STIG compliance rules off of those findings. All right, so I've downloaded the latest configuration. Let's go back to compliance. We work on layer 2 services, so I'll just go ahead and update that. Update selected. It goes on about 15-second cycles, so every section is 15 seconds. And then after each cycle runs through, it'll either be complete or not. If you have a problem with the regex rule, it may sit caching for about 20 minutes, but it will fill out. Several years ago, it used to just stay there for days and weeks on end. But lately, SolarWinds has provided a crash out. Okay, so that is updated there. Let's go ahead and take a look at our site audit. Oh no, what happened to services? Well, services has now been remediated because all the all the findings have been checked. You are no longer deficient in any services findings. Do we have another question?
Yes, sir. Another one came in. It says, have you guys found a way to identify which iOSs will accept a syntax if you're not sure, instead of asking the network team, Google, or setting up a lab? Is there a cool way to do this in Orion?
Yes, there is actually. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. Let's go back over to compliance. We'll go ahead and pick a rule. Let's go back over to services. Actually, you know what? I want to go back. Manage policy rules. And manage rules. And we'll go ahead and pick 724. All right, so if your Cisco iOS device requires service space TCP keep alive in, all one word, but your XE device requires something a little bit different but says the same thing. Right, so we're going to check for this one first, iOS, or we're going to check for service, two spaces, TCP keep alive space in. They're saying the same thing, but there are additional spaces and minus hyphens. Right? So you have your iOS check up front and your XEOS, if that's how XEOS did it, down the bottom. And then what I like to do is come down here. If there are those one-offs or differences, I like to put in iOS, and this is what runs that code. And then XEOS I can spell it today, is running that particular type of code. Right? There you go. You've identified the same rule, but between two different operating systems. Now, when you're talking iOS or XEOS versus NXOS, the Nexus, I gen up a separate set of rules for Nexus because that is drastically different. And then obviously you've seen where I do the different rules because that OS is drastically different. And if, okay, let's go ahead and edit that rule one more time. If you want to add, actually, if you want to add notes inside the rule itself, we can do that too. So in the parentheses, okay, I'm going to put that right there. Take out that one and put it down below, and I will put XEOS version. Okay. So when the rule does process, it's going to go through with the latest configuration. It's going to look for service space TCP keep alive in, or it's going to look for XEOS. Well, we know that's not necessarily going to be showing up inside your configuration, right? So it's not going to find that. Or it's going to look for TCP service space TCP keep alive space in, and it'll find that if we're looking for an XEOS device. That's just a different way you can handle that as well. Sometimes if you have one rule that's handling several different regions, and you need to separate it, I generally like to put the differences down below in the remediation box. Kind of use it as like a text or a notes box. But if you want to put it up in the rules, you can do it in that similar sort of fashion.
Lixat, who asked that question, is very happy with you. I believe she is saying noise. So I don't know if I emulated that just right, but the sentiment is passed along. No other questions are coming in. Oh, there we go. It's just more of a comment. Okay, so is there anything else that you wanted to cover today, Eric, before we let everyone get on with their day?
No, I don't have anything else. I mean, it's pretty easy, straightforward. It takes a little bit of time at the beginning, but once you get through it, it goes along real quickly.
Great. Well, this has been recorded. Those of you that participated will get a direct link to listen to the recording. It will also be posted. It will also be posted to our YouTube channel, and then it'll go out in our one of our regular email blasts. But if you're not a subscriber to that, you can do it at loop1.com. The other two things, the last housekeeping things, are just to let you know what the next two webinars are going to be. This is going to be a series, a two-part series on SCP. The first one will be SCP for MPM. That will happen in June, date to be determined. And then in July, we'll be doing SCP for SAM. So stay tuned via, look for emails on that, follow us on Twitter, look for it on Thwack. And we're excited to have you a part of those as well. And if you have any particular topics you would like us to cover on a webinar, you can email marketing@loop1.com, and we'd love to hear from you. And any feedback you have on these webinars in general is welcomed and appreciated. So with that, we'll go ahead and let you get on with your day. Thank you, Eric, so much for your time and your expertise in this matter. And I'm sure a lot of people learned a lot of stuff today. So thank you.
All right, thank you very much. And thank everybody for attending.
Have a great day.
Bye-bye.